so excited for you to crochet your very own vest today. So in this video, I'll guide you through all the steps of the size small of the vest. You can easily follow along with the written size guide for any size. So in this video, I'll be working with the Econana tube yarn and a 6mm crochet needle. But if you have a 7mm, that works just as well. So the vest is designed to have an opening at the front, and for a reference, I'm wearing the size small. If you want it to be a bit more oversized, I suggest you go up a size. Or if you're not sure what size to pick, I suggest you crochet the first 2 rows of the pattern and then hold that around your chest and see how it fits and go from there. But enough talking, let's start crocheting. Okay, let's get started. So first we're gonna make a slip knot. I twist the yarn around my fingers like this, slide it off, and just pull the yarn through and make a loop. And then I just insert my hook and tighten the yarn around it. Okay, so for the size small, we will make 65 chains to start with. So I have 1, make 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just continue to make your chains until you have 65 for the size small. If you're making a bigger size, just follow the instructions in the chart and you know the amount of chains you need for that size. 63, 64, 65. Okay, so for the first row, we will make half double crochets. So in the 3rd stitch from your needle, so 1, 2, 3, we will make our first half double crochet. So we start with twisting the yarn around the needle, then we dive down in the 3rd stitch, we hook the yarn and pull it up, so you get 3 loops around your needle, and then you hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops at once. We make another one, so we twist the yarn, we dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. Again, twist the yarn, dive down, hook the yarn, pull it up, so you get 3 loops, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. So continue making half double crochets in every stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. Final stitches, and you should have a total of 63 stitches when you're done for the size small. So I make my final one right here. Okay, so now I made my final half double crochet, and we end the row with making 2 chains. So 1, 2, and then we twist the work over like this. Okay, I see you at the next step. Step number 2. So we're gonna make another row of half double crochets. So we start with twisting the yarn around the needle, and I dive down right there, right here in the loop. So you get 2 loop on the top, okay? And then we hook the yarn and pull it up. And we hook the yarn and pull through all 3 loops. So again, twist the yarn and we dive down right here, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. Another one. So you just continue making your half double crochets all the way to the end of the row, and I will meet you there. So the final stitches of the 2nd row. So I make the final stitch. Okay, so the final stitch could be a bit hard to see, but it's the loop right here. So always double count so you have the right amount at the end. Okay, so 63. And again, we end with making 2 chains. So 1 and 2. And then we turn our work over. And then I meet you at step number 3. So step number 3, and for this row, we will make double crochets. So we twist the yarn around the needle and we dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up. So again, we have 3 loops around your needle, but this time we will only pull the yarn through the first 2 loops. And then we hook the yarn again and pull through the last 2 loops. And we twist the yarn, we dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up. And we hook the yarn and pull through the first 2 loops and then the next 2 loops. So again, twist the yarn, dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn and pull through the first 2 loops and the last 2 loops. So continue making your double crochets all the way to the end of the row, and I will meet you there. So the last stitches of row 3 and our double crochets. And again, we end the row with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. Okay, so this is what it should look like this far. This is one section of the bottom part. We're gonna make a total of 3 for the height. So we made 2 rows of half double crochets and then 1 row with double crochets. So we're gonna continue with the second section and I will meet you there. So let's start the second section. So with row number 4 and 5, you will make half double crochets. So remember, we twist the yarn around the needle, dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up so you get your 3 loops. Then you hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops at once. Again, twist the yarn, dive down, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. So continue making your half double crochets for 2 more rows, and I will meet you at row number 5 and show you how we finish and continue with the next step. So we're at the end of row 5. I'm making my last half double crochets. So 1 more right here. And again, we end the row with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. Then we turn our work over. Okay, so I meet you at step number 6. So step number 6, this is the last row of our second section. So we make double crochets. So we twist the yarn around the needle, dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up so you get your 3 loops. Then we hook the yarn again and pull through the first 2 loops, hook the yarn and pull through the next 2 loops. And one more time, so we twist the yarn, dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up so you get your 3 loops, hook the yarn, pull through the first 2 loops. Let me just grab a bit more yarn. Hook the yarn again and pull through the next 2 loops. So continue making your double crochets till the end of the row and I will meet you there. Almost at the end of row 6 with our double crochets. So make the final stitches. And I have one last left. Okay, so that's the final one. And again, we end with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. Then we twist the work. Okay, so now we have 2 sections. so let's start the next step and I will meet you there. We are at row number 7. So this is the third section for the bottom part. So for 2 more rows, so row 7 and 8, we will make our half double crochets once more. So continue making your half doubles for the next 2 rows, and I will meet you at the end of row 8 and show you how we finish and continue with the next step. So we are at the end of row 8. I made my last half double crochets. So 1 more right here. And again, we finish with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. Then we flip our work. See you at step number 9. Row number 9. So we're gonna make double crochets for this row. So we start with twisting the yarn around a needle, dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up. So you get your 3 loops around your needle. Hook the yarn again and pull through the first 2 loops. Again, pull through the last 2 loops. One more time. So we twist the yarn around a needle, dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up. Hook the yarn again and pull through the first 2 loops. Let me grab some more yarn. So we hook the yarn again and pull through the last 2 loops. So just continue making your double crochets all the way to the end of the row and I will meet you there. Almost at the final stitches of row number 9. So I make my final 2 double crochets and the last one right here. And again, we end with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. And then we flip our work. And I meet you at row number 10. So now we're at row number 10 and also the last row of our base part of the vest. So we're gonna make half double crochets this time. So we twist the yarn around a needle, dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up. So we hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. Again, twist the yarn, dive down in the second stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. So we make our half double crochets all the way to the end of the row and I will meet you there. So the final stitches of row number 10. So I make my 2 last half double crochets. The last one, and again we end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2, and then we flip our work. So this was the final row of our base part for the vest, and we're gonna start with the front part. So don't cut the yarn, we're just gonna continue working and I will meet you at step 11. So we're at row number 11. And that means starting our first front part for the vest. So I'm gonna start with grabbing something to place as a marker. I use needles. So grab a needle or whatever you have and count 16 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is for the size small. We use 16 stitches. So remember, we made 2 rows of half double crochets and then 1 row with double crochets for the pattern, and we're going to continue with that same pattern. So we ended row 10 with half doubles, so we're going to continue making half double for this row. So we make 16 half doubles. So continue in the first stitch, we hook hook the yarn and pull it up, and we pull through all 3 loops. Oh, like this. Make the next one. So just work your half doubles all the way until you have 16 stitches. So number 14, 15, and I remove my needle. Then I make my last 16th half double crochet. And then again, we end with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. And then I meet you at row number 12. Row number 12. So flip your work if you haven't already. And we're gonna make double crochets for this row. So we make 16 doubles. So we start in the first stitch. We twist the yarn around the needle, hook the yarn and pull it up. And then we hook the yarn and pull through the first 2 loops. And then the next 2 loops. So twist the yarn, dive down in the second stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn and pull through first 2 loops, then the next 2 loops. So work your double crochets, 1 in every stitch to the end of the row. So my final double crochets, make my 15th and my 16th right here, right there. It's a bit tricky. Okay, and again we end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2, and then we continue with step number 13. Row 13. So we're gonna start our decrease. So you have 16 stitches on this row. We're gonna decrease to 14. So we work with half double crochets. So we twist the yarn and we skip the first stitch, and then we dive down in the second stitch. So twist the yarn, dive down in the second stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, and we make our half double crochet. And then you make another 12, so you have 13. So number 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when you get to the final stitches, we're gonna skip the second to last. So when you have your 13, I'll make my 13 right here, and then we skip the second to last, so this one, and then we make the last one in the last stitch. So skip and dive down right here. So you should have 14 stitches, and then again we end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2. And that is the end of row 13. See you at row number 14. Row 14. So again, for this row, we're gonna make a decrease, and we're working with half double crochets. So again, we skip the first stitch. So we twist the yarn, we dive down in the second stitch, we hook the yarn and pull it up, and we make our half double crochet by using all 3 loops at once. So we make a total of 11 half double crochets in a row. So I have 2, and I make my number 3, 4, So we work our 11, and again we're gonna skip the second to last stitch. So almost, so I make my last 11th, and right here, so you can see you have 2 stitches left, so we skip this one and we make our final 12th stitch right here in the last stitch. So number 12, and again we finish with 2 chains, so 1 and 2. So this, let me see if I can show you, this is what it should look like this far. So we're making our decreases. Sometimes you have to pull the edges to get a nice look. Okay, and I will meet you at the next step. Row 15. So you have 12 stitches now on your row. We're gonna decrease with 1 stitch, so we get 11. So for this row, we're gonna work double crochets, and we skip the first stitch. So twist the yarn, dive down in the second stitch, grab the yarn and pull it up, and work your first 2 loops and then your second 2 loops. And now you make 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way to the end of the row. So I have 4, and of course this is for the size small, so you can always double count the amount of stitches you need for your size. So my final 2 stitches, so make my final one right here, if you can see this loop. Okay, so my last double crochet, and we end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2. So this is what it should look like this far, and I will meet you at the next step. Row 16. So for this row, we're gonna work with our half double crochets. So this time we start at the first stitch, so twist the yarn around the needle, dive down in the first stitch and make your half double crochet. So work 9 half double crochets, and then we're gonna make the decrease at the end of the row. So we're gonna skip the second to last, so we get a nice angle right here. So I make my last half double crochet before I skip the second to last stitch, so this one right here, and we make our last half double crochet in the last stitch like this. And again we end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2. So now you have a total of 10 stitches on your row. Now we see you at the next step. Row 17. So for this row we're going to work half double crochets, and we're going to decrease with 2 stitches. So we skip the first stitch and we make our first half double crochet in the second stitch. So twist the yarn, dive down in the second stitch and make your half double crochet. Then we continue making our half double crochets, and we skip the second to last stitch at the end of the row. So we go from 10 stitches to 8. So I make my final half double crochet, and then I skip my second to last stitch right here, and then I make my final half double crochet in the last stitch like this. And again we end with 2 chains, 1 and 2. And I'll meet you at the next step. Row 18. So now we're going to work our double crochets. So we're going to skip the first stitch. So twist the yarn, skip the first stitch and dive down in the second one and make your double crochet. So we use the first 2 loops, then the second 2 loops. And again, twist the yarn, dive down, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through the first 2 loops and then the last 2 loops. So we make our double crochets and we're going to skip again the second to last stitch. So you get a total of 6 stitches on your row. So I make my 5th double crochet and then I skip my next step and I make my final double crochet in the last stitch. Like this. And then again, we end with 2 chains, 1 and 2. And then I meet you at the next step. Row 19. So for this row, we're going to work with half double crochets and we're going to make the decrease in the first stitch. So we're going to work 5 half double crochets in total. So start with twisting the yarn and dive down in the second stitch right here. So hook the yarn and pull it up and work it all the way through all 3 loops. And then make 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way to the end, so you get a total of 5 stitches. Number 4 and the last one, number 5. And then again we end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2. And I see you at the next step. We are at row 20. So you have a total of 5 stitches on your row and we're going to keep that. So I suggest you grab your markers once again and place just, you know, where the 19th row starts. So I'm just going to put marker right here. And we make half double crochet, so 1 in every stitch from row 20 to 34. So 14 rows with half double crochet, and that is the shoulder section. So 1 in every stitch. 4 and 5. So this is row 20. And remember, we end with 2 chains. So I make 2 and then we flip the work. And we start with row 21. So just keep going with your half double crochets all the way to row 34. And I will meet you there and show you how we finish the first front part of the vest. So now I'm done with my 14 rows. So let me just show you how it looks this far. Let me see if we can get it all in there. So this is the shoulder part and this is the front part, like this. Okay, so to end, we just cut the yarn like this, and then I just pull it through and make a knot like this. So that is the end of the first front part. So let's continue with the back side in the next step, and I will see you there. We're at the step where we're going to create the back part of the vest. So, but before we start, I just wanted to let you know that it's okay to pause the video right here and make the other front part first if you want, or you can just follow along and make the back part first and then the other front. It's up to you. So let's continue. As you can see, I placed a few markers to make it a bit easier with the counting for the back part. So if you're making the size small, we will count 3 stitches from where the first front part ends. So 1, 2, 3, and then I place my marker And from this stitch, we will count 25 stitches and place another marker right here. So grab your yarn, and I start like this. So I grab my yarn and I fold it in half. So I make a U shape, and where I place my marker, I'm gonna insert my crochet needle and grab the yarn and just pull it through so you get a loop, and then I hold it tight with the end right here. And with the long piece of yarn, I crochet 2 chains. So 1 and 2. Oops, okay, 2. And so we're gonna hide this end right here along the row. So for this row, we're gonna make half double crochets and 25 of them. So start with twisting the yarn and dive down in the second stitch and make your half double crochet like this. So we pull through all 3 loops. And if you can, hide the yarn alongside this row right here. And then again, we twist the yarn and dive down in the third stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, and make our third half double crochet. So make another 25, or until you have 25 on your row, and I will meet you there. I'm making my final stitches of row 11 on my back part. So this counts as the first row, of course, but it's number 11 if you follow the instructions. So my last half double crochet right here, and then of course we end with 2 chains. So 1 and 2, and then just flip your work like this, and I will see you at the next step. Row number 12 for the back part. So this row we will work with double crochets. So again, we make 25 and we work in the first stitch, and we make 1 double crochet, and again twist the yarn, dive down in the next stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn and pull through the first 2 loops, and then the second 2 loops. So work your double crochets all the way to the end, so you get 25. So I'm making my final double crochets. So let me just show you where you make your final one so you don't forget to use the last loop. It can be a bit tricky. So we started with a chain right here, remember, and we're gonna make our final stitch in this loop, so you get a total of 25 on your row. Like this, and then end with 2 chains, so 1 and 2. And then you just flip your work and continue with the next step. Row 13. So for this step, we're gonna start our decrease. So we're gonna skip the first stitch and the second to last, and we're gonna work with half double crochets. So twist the yarn and we skip the first stitch and we dive down in the second stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, and pull through all 3 loops. And then you make your half double crochets. All the way until you are almost at the end. And I will meet you there and show you how we finish. Right, so almost at the end. And just to show you, we're gonna skip the second to last stitch. So you have your last stitch right here. I'm gonna skip this one. So I make my half double crochet right here, and then I skip the next one and make my last stitch in the final loop. And then we end with 2 chains, 1 and 2. So now we made a decrease. We went from 25 to 23 stitches. So you should have 23 on this row. And just flip your work and we continue with the next step. Row 14. So we make 23 half double crochets for this row. So easy peasy. So we twist the yarn, dive down in the first stitch, and we make 1 half double crochet in every stitch on this row. So no decrease. So I make my final stitches and I end right here, my number 23. And then again, we end with 2 chains. So just flip your work and we continue with the next step. Row 15. So for this row, we're going to work double crochets, 1 in every stitch. So we get a total of 23. So start with twisting the yarn around the needle, dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through the first 2 loops. Again, pull through the next 2 loops. So twist the yarn, dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn and pull through the first 2 loops, and again the second 2 loops. So work 1 double crochet in every stitch, and I will meet you at the end of the row. So I'm making my final double crochets. So I have 2 left. Then you make your last one right here. And then again, we end the row with making 2 chains. So 1 and 2. So just flip your work and we continue with the next step. Row 16. So for this row, we're gonna make a decrease. So we're gonna skip the first and the second to last stitch. And we're gonna work our half double crochets. So twist the yarn and we skip the first stitch. We make a half double in the second stitch. So hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn and pull through all 3 loops. And again, we make a half double crochet in the second stitch. So work the yarn through all loops. Okay, so twist the yarn, dive down, hook it and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 loops. And just work 1 half double crochet in every stitch, all the way to the end of the row, and I will show you where we skip for the decrease. Okay, so almost at the end of the row, so I make 1 more half double crochets, and then I skip the second to last. So this stitch we skip and then we make the last one in the last stitch. And again, we end with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. And then just flip your work and we continue with the next step. Row 17. So we're gonna make another row of half double crochets, no decrease. So make 1 half double crochet in every stitch. So we start in the first stitch and we'll make another one in the second one. So just make 1 half double crochet in every stitch. So I make my final half double crochets. So I have a total of 21. And again, we end with 2 chains. And then you flip your work and we continue with the next step. Row 18. So for this row, we're gonna make double crochets and no decrease. So you make 1 double crochet in every stitch. So we twist the yarn and we work the first 2 loops and then the second 2 loops. So again, twist the yarn, dive down, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through both 2 loops. And then again, the last 2 loops. So make your double crochets, 1 in every stitch, all the way to the end of the row. And your final double crochets of the row. And again, you should have 21 stitches in total. And I'll make my last one. And then again, we end with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. So just flip your work and we continue with the next step. We're at row number 19 and number 20. So for 2 rows, we're gonna work half double crochets, 1 in every stitch, no decrease. So just twist your yarn, dive down in the first stitch and make your half double crochets. Remember, we pull through all 3 loops. So twist the yarn, dive down in the stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through all 3 stitches. So you make 2 rows of half double crochets, 1 in every stitch, and I will meet you at the end of row 20 and show you how we finish. My final stitches of row number 20 with my half double crochets. So I make my final one right here. And again, we end the row with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. So just flip your work and we continue with the next step. So for row 21, we're gonna work double crochets, 1 in each stitch, so no decrease. So just twist the yarn, dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, hook the yarn again and pull through the first 2 loops. Hook the yarn and pull through the next 2 loops. So just make your double crochets, 1 in every stitch, all the way to the end of the row. So I'm at the end of my row with my double crochets. So I make my 2 final stitches. And the last one. And again, we end the row with 2 chains. So 1 and 2. So flip your work and we continue with the next step. Row 22. So this is the last row for the back part before we connect the shoulders for the back and front. So for this row, we're gonna make half double crochets, 1 in every stitch. So twist the yarn and dive down in the first stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up, and pull through all 3 loops. So work 1 half double crochet in every stitch. So I make my last half double crochets for the last row of the back part. So I make my final stitch right here. And then you're done. But don't cut the yarn, because in the next step I will show you how we connect the shoulder from the front and the back part. So I will see you there. Okay, so let's continue with the next part, and in a second I will show you how we attach the shoulders together. So as you can see, the front part, let me just zoom out a little bit like this. So here you have it, you have both front parts together with the back part. So everything is crocheted flat, and so you fold it together and you attach the shoulders like this. So in the next step, I will show you how we crochet these together. Let's meet up there. Let's crochet the shoulder part together. So I put my front to the back part like this. And just a quick reminder, if you have any knots along the way you need to hide, just make sure you get those on the inside of the vest. So this is the outside and the outside, and I put those two towards each other. All right, so we're gonna make slip stitches in only the back loop so it doesn't get too chunky. So I'm using only these two loops right here, if you can see those, the ones that are closest to each other. So I put my hook or my crochet needle in those two back loops. I hook the yarn and pull through, and I pull through both loops immediately like this. That's your slip stitch. And again, we use only the back loops, hook the yarn and pull through like this. And again, we make a slip stitch in the next stitch like this. And one more time. And the last one like this. And then I don't cut off my yarn, I just keep crocheting. So I need to hide this part as well. So from now on, I make single crochets all the way to the other side of the shoulder. And this will be a part of the nice edge. We're gonna crochet all the way around the outline so you get a nice finish. So I make single crochets all the way up to the other side. So I have, remember, the front part is 5 stitches wide. So we can leave 5 stitches on this side. So let me show you. I put this shoulder right here so I know where to stop. So I make my single crochets, a few more. Like this. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one more. Okay, and then I put these shoulder parts together like this. And you can hide this later on if you want, or just cut it off. So again, we make slip stitches. So I use only the back loops like this. And then we hook the yarn and pull through both loops. One more time. Hook the yarn and pull through and make a slip stitch. And continue all the way until your shoulder is connected. Back loops, oops, back loops like this, hook the yarn, pull through, and pull through again. And the last stitch, so both back loops, hook the yarn, pull through, and pull through like this. And there you have your last slip stitch. So I'm not going to cut the yarn. I'm just going to make a chain, and then I'm going to continue making a nice edge around the vest like this so you get a nice finish, and I will show you that in the next step. So this is where we finished our second shoulder part. I'm just going to turn this over. So from now on, we're going to make single crochets all the way around the edge so you get a nice finish or a nice lining. So I'm just going to make one chain like this, and then just wherever you feel like you can put your needle down, I'm just going to make a single crochet all the way around. So there is no right or wrong here, no right amount, just make one single crochet all the way around the edge. Like this. So just keep going. So the final stitches, and I dive down right here and make my single crochet, and then you end the row with a slip stitch somewhere, maybe here, and just cut the thread somewhere and just pull it through like this, and then you hide it. Let me see, so this is the inside, and I just kind of try to hide it in between some stitches like this. So now this is a bit too long, so I cut it a bit shorter. And then you can just hide it like this. Just make sure you get it on the inside so it's nicely hidden. All right, so there you have it. So just repeat the same steps on the other armhole, and then I'll show you how we crochet the edge around the outlining of the vest. I see you there. Final step. So we're gonna make our single crochets all the way around the outline of the vest. So I start with grabbing my yarn and I fold the yarn like this, so you get a U shape. And then I put my needle through the first stitch where I want to start, and I just pull the yarn through so you get a loop. And then with the long piece of yarn, I hook it and make a chain. And then you can hide this end as you go. So just dive down where you want to create your next stitch, hook the yarn and pull it up and make a single crochet. So just work your way around. And again, there is no right or wrong with the amount of stitches, just do as you feel is right. So when I get to a corner like this, I usually make 2 stitches in the same stitch. So I dive down, make 1 single crochet, and then I make 1 more in the same stitch like this. And then I continue with my single crochets around the bottom edge like this, and I hide the end as good as I can. So let me just show you what it looks like. So you get a nice round corner like this. Just continue crocheting all the way around. So I'm almost done. I'm gonna work my final stitches. Maybe I do 1 last single crochet over here, and then I finish up with a slip stitch in the last stitch like this, and just cut the yarn, pull it through, and I'm gonna turn it over so I have the back side up, so I can easily hide my yarn in between some stitches. And it's a bit long, so I'm going to cut it a bit shorter. Here we go. And just hide it somewhere in between the stitches like this. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna hide it like this, and I think that's fine, so I'm just gonna cut it off. All right, so now you're done with your vest, and just the next step is to try it on and enjoy it. You finished your very own vest. Fantastic work, you should be proud. And thank you for crocheting with me and make your own today. I hope you really enjoy your vest, and please tag us in social media. We love to connect through creativity and to see what you're working on. I'll see you in the next video.